Welcome back to the Patient First Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Bryan Laskin, where, of course, we're looking to increase the influence of today's engaged dentists. I love your comments, so make sure to comment, like, and subscribe to the podcast if you find this valuable, where I'm doing my best to bring you great content every week, and this week is no exception. We have a great topic today that I think can be one of the best opportunities in your practice, but likely is the biggest waste of time in your practice. I can hear the groaning already when I mention this topic. It is team meetings. Yes, team meetings can be a colossal waste of time, or they can be a gigantic asset and your key to growth. Do people hate meetings? I think this is a common misconception. 100% absolutely no. People do not hate meetings. The flip side is 100% of the time, people hate bad meetings. And unfortunately, in dentistry and frankly throughout the entire world, bad meetings are by far the most common type of meetings. So what makes the difference between a good meeting and a bad meeting? Well, I'm going to talk a lot about good meetings at the end of this podcast. But first, I'm going to go through my top tips of what makes the most common mistakes people make when leading dental meetings. Number one, updates don't have any place in your meeting. And most meetings that I see with team meetings in dental practices is just a list of updates. Well, CPR is this date. We're having an OSHA training this date. Could you please put the sterilization cassettes here? It's just a list of items that would be much better sent off in an email. Rule of thumb, if it can be done faster in writing, do it in writing. Don't have it as part of your team meeting because you'll bore people to death. Having a single update, like we're having a happy hour tomorrow at 4:00 is one thing, but having your meeting turn out to be just a list of items that somebody's reading off, just send out an email. Make everybody's life easier. They can read it faster and it's going to be processed way better. So updates don't have any place in meetings. Number two, the right mix of people is key. Not having the right mix of people is very, very, very damaging. Not everybody should be in every meeting. Let me say that again for a lot of you out there. Not everybody should be in every meeting. Just have the people that you want to contribute to this focused discussion that you're talking about at the meeting. If people want to be part of the meeting that shouldn't be part of the discussion, just say no. I know that like Jeff Bezos says that there shouldn't be a meeting where there's more people than 2 pizzas can feed. I think in a dental practice, if there's more people than 1 pizza can feed, it's a very specific type of meeting that I'll talk about at the end of this podcast. But as a rule of thumb, less people is more effective. So make sure you have the right mix of people in the meeting. My next tip is the hardest one for me by far. I break this rule all the time, but when I'm at my best, I don't. And it is to stop talking. And obviously, somebody who talks weekly into a microphone for you every week and enjoys it, it's my hardest rule to follow. But as the leader of the meeting, you should be talking the least. The leader should help set topics, help prioritize those topics, and help make decisions. But let everybody else on your team contribute, and you sit back and listen, because people want to be listened. They want to be heard. And so listen to what they have to say. And then ultimately you can help make the decision. So if you're running the meeting, which most of the people listening to the podcast are, stop talking as much as you can. And again, I'm talking to myself as much as anybody else with this one. Our next tip is to stop and start on time every time. And frankly, this is my favorite one. This is my favorite tip because I think it is a sign of respect. It's a sign that you know what you're doing. And I can know that there's a lot of people out there saying, oh, what if that crown prep goes long? Well, then you're doing it wrong. Like if you don't know how long your crown preps take after doing 10,000 crown preps, well, I've got go to Upgrade Dental and figure out how to prep teeth. Because I think that in dentistry, we understate the importance of starting and stopping on time. And it's key when it comes to meetings because people aren't going to be engaged if you aren't. And so showing that you care about this meeting, you have to show up on time. If you have that 10 10-unit veneer case, you're probably going to start on time no matter what else is going on in your practice. Your meetings should be no different. And default to having less time than you think you may need, because these should be focused. So you stop on time, but you're not wasting any time. This isn't just a foo-foo, time to talk about whatever you want to. We want to be very focused, which is incredibly hard to do. And then if you run out of time, just schedule a follow-up meeting. And starting off with the highest priority items as you run through. So that being said, make sure to start and stop on time at least 90% of the time, or you're telling people that this just doesn't matter. So there's 7 types of meetings, I think, and each one of them has specific nuances, specific objectives, and pitfalls that you want to stay away from. And I'm not going to go into every one of them, but I'm going to list them here just so you have an idea of what I'm talking about. Number 1 is the only time in my experience that you should have a full team meeting. And that is when you're emphasizing your culture and you're motivating the entire team. This is more of a rah-rah session than anything else. Celebration, talking about team culture and getting everybody aligned on what your primary focus is. And this is the time where you just have some food and celebrate, which is what most people's team meetings are now, except they're trying to give updates and maybe solve issues. Doesn't have a place. Just restate your culture, restate your focus, and then have everybody have fun. That's the only time, in my opinion, you should have a full team meeting. The other meetings are issue solving. So when you have focused issues, small team meetings for alignment, trying to get everybody, like the doctor and assistant, getting them on the same page, or doctor and hygiene team, getting them aligned. Huddles, like morning huddles. Strategizing. Sometimes I like to go off-site where you take a day, maybe 2 days, where you do long-term strategizing for the practice. Same page meetings is what we call them, which are one-on-ones. So if I'm meeting with the person who's managing the practice, we do that one-on-one. And then lastly, implementation meetings. And that's where you have a larger team meeting, but you're focused on implementing a specific policy, a specific technology. And again, there's a small group leading it who's basically doing training for everybody else. So those are the 7 types of meetings. And we go into detail of all 7 and really how to maximize your effectiveness and your engagement on meetings in the 16-week workshop that we've just put together called the Insanely Productive Dentist. To get going, just go to upgradedental.com/go. We go through 4 stages: the Insanely Productive Dentist, the Insanely Productive Operatory, the Insanely Productive Office, and then Team Mastery is the last stage. It's 4 stages, 16 weeks. It's a very hands-on workshop where we help you go through everything from how to double your production to how to set up your operatory and even prep that crown I talked about earlier, how to prep a crown in less than 2 minutes. So, but we also go through the 7 types of meetings and how to lead and participate in each one of the meetings effectively. So to get going, go to upgradedental.com/go. Again, if you have other ideas of meetings, make sure to make comments below and be sure to like and subscribe so you get the next Patient First podcast. Thanks a lot and see you next time.